Well, here we are for another scriptural study. This time the subject is the global financial crisis, as explained in advance by the scriptures. Many ask me why I trust the scriptures and/or the word so much. Well, I believe this combination of books to be like a newspaper from the past, present, let alone the future. Many state otherwise. They share that the book is outdated and it is no longer relevant. Well, I disagree. The scriptural passages being shared today will prove that point quite easily, let alone as compared to some attached movie clips. So again, how did the scriptures know well in advance about the global financial crisis, let alone how we would handle some of our individual financial affairs? In the book of Revelation, it speaks much about the condition of the world, let alone individuals, as it relates to finance. Let's explore four passages from Revelation chapter 18. As well, when we go through these verses, think about what it's stating. It's talking about a woman that esteemed herself, which represents a place that lived riotously and had no humility whatsoever. So really focus on this one theme as we go through these four verses in the book of Revelation chapter 18. So starting off with verse 7, we read, "As much as she esteemed herself and lived righteously, so much torture and grief give to her. Because in her heart she says, I sit as sovereignness, and I am not a widow, and I do not see mourning at all." Let's take the U.S. as an example. Many now believe that the U.S. alone has spent 7 generations of children's future that have yet to be born. Some people call this future genocide. The debt in the U.S. alone is at 18 trillion and climbing. Some believe it's far more than that, but let's just go with that number, which is an unimaginable number, as everyone knows. So is this type of spending, let alone living, esteeming yourself? Is it a way of living riotously? It certainly is. It's totally out of control. No one would argue this. This is what makes the scriptures so relevant. But is there more? So yes, in 2008, everyone knew about the global financial disaster and our collapse. We were on the verge of an entire financial global meltdown. Did we mourn? Did we become humble? What did we do? No, we prolonged the inevitable and we printed money. So indeed, there is no mourning at all at this point in time. But in verse 8 of the scriptures, it talks about an entire financial collapse in just one day. And everyone will look in horror at this event. People still do not believe that our entire financial system can actually collapse. There still remains no humility en masse whatsoever. And as well, people do not believe that the entire global financial system can actually collapse in just one day. Let's find out if that is indeed a true statement. Here's a quick movie clip that went over the details and events that happened in 2008. It's from a movie entitled Too Big to Fail that was released in 2011.
I hate to do this right now, but I'm going to have a press call first thing, and I really don't know what I'm going to tell them.
Tell them Lehman exacerbated AIG. The simultaneous payouts of CDOs and credit default swaps put catastrophic pressure
Go back
on
further.
the global pool of investment capital.
She has to do this in English. Start with the homeowners.
Okay, here's how you explain it. Wall Street started bundling home loans together, mortgage-backed securities, and selling slices of those bundles to investors. And they were making big money. So they started pushing the lenders, saying, come on, we need more loans.
The lenders had already given loans to borrowers with good credit, so they go bottom feeding. They lower their criteria.
Before, you needed a credit score of 620 and a down payment of 20%. Now they'll settle for $500, no money down.
And the buyer, the regular guy on the street, assumes that the experts know what they're doing. He's saying to himself, if the bank's willing to loan me money, I must be able to afford it. So he reaches for the American dream. He buys that house.
The banks knew securities based on shitbag mortgages were risky.
You'll work on shitbag.
So to control their downside, the banks started buying a kind of insurance. If mortgages default, insurance company pays. Default swap. The banks insure their potential losses to move the risk off their books so they can invest more, make more money.
Well, a lot of companies insured this stuff. One was dumb enough to take on an almost unbelievable amount of risk.
AIG.
And you'll work on dumb.
And when they ask me why they did that?
Fees.
Hundreds of millions in fees.
Yeah, and she figured the housing market would just keep going up. But then the unexpected happens.
Housing prices go down.
Poor bastard who bought his dream house, the teaser rate on his mortgage runs out, his payments go up, he defaults.
Mortgage-backed securities tank. AIG has to pay off the swaps. All of them. All over the world. At the same time.
AIG can't pay. AIG goes under. Every bank they insure books massive losses on the same day. And then they all go under. It all comes down.
The whole financial system? And what do I say when they ask me why it wasn't regulated?
No one wanted to. We were making too much money.
You'll work on we were making too much money.
So as we can see, Wall Street and many other central banks globally are still trying to put the spin on we were making too much money. So when someone asks you a question if Scripture is relevant in this day and age, and or makes the comment that the word is outdated, how will you respond? Let's fast forward to the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 10, which states, standing at a distance for fear of her torture, saying, woe, woe, the great city, Babel, the mighty city, because your judgment has come in 1 hour. It is possible for the judgment to come in 1 hour, as we have just seen from the movie clip, but there's far more information than this. Here's a graph showing exactly the situation in regards to the debt. Presently, the U.S. alone is at $18 trillion in debt, and it's counting. Here's another scriptural passage from the prophet Yirmiyahu. His name meant Yahuwah will raise up, as we read in chapter 6, verses 13 through 15. For from the least of them, even to the greatest of them, they are all greedy for gain. And from the prophet even to the priest, all act falsely. And they heal the breach of my people slightly, saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. Were they ashamed when they had done abomination? No. They were not at all ashamed, nor did they know how to blush. Therefore they shall fall among those who fall. They shall stumble at the time I visit them, said Yahuwah. There are so many scriptural passages that are relevant for this day that represent exactly what is going on in our world. The world acts in an opposite manner in regards to what Yahuwah shares and teaches, let alone his word as written in Scripture. In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 3, it states, but whoring and all uncleanliness, or greed of gain, let it not even be named among you, as is proper among set-apart ones. Let's take a look at another movie clip, this time from the movie called Wall Street.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar Paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA. Thank you very much.
So greed is not good. It doesn't work. It never has. But people continue to sell it and state that it is indeed good, when in fact we have so much history and documentation to prove otherwise. In the book of Hosea, meaning salvation, chapter 4, verses 5 through 6, there's a really great line that really stands out. And it states, "My people have perished for lack of knowledge." What knowledge? Scriptural knowledge, of course. And as a result of people not believing and implementing Scripture in their very lives, we continue to repeat history, much to our detriment. You know the definition of the word insanity, right? It is as follows: doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. Money is not evil by itself, but the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, as we can read in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 9 through 10. In the book of Hebrews, chapters 13, verses 5 through 6, it states, "Let your way of life be without the love of money, and be satisfied with what you have. For he himself has said, quote, 'I shall never leave you nor forsake you,' end of quote. So that we boldly say, 'Yahuwah is my helper. I shall not fear what man shall do to me.'" Is it fine just to blame big business, central banks, the Federal Reserve, on and on and on? At the end of the day, Scripture is very equitable. It's fair. It shows through its instruction the responsibilities to each and every one of us. So as it states in the book of Tehillim, meaning praises, changed to Psalms, chapter 37, verse 21, "The wrongdoer is boring and does not repay." We all have a responsibility to our own financial well-being, let alone the financial well-being of others. The Scriptures give us great guidance. In the book of Mishlei, meaning truth, changed to Proverbs, chapter 22, verses 26 through 27, it states, "Do not be one of those who shakes hands in a pledge, one of those who are guarantors for debts. If you do not have the means to pay, why should he take away your bed from under you?" Furthermore, in the book of Luke, chapter 14, verses 28 through 30, it states, "For who of you wishing to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid the foundation and is unable to finish it, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, 'This man began to build and was unable to finish.'" Again, the instruction of Scriptures is just that. It's a guide to keep us out of harm's way. Joining the world is a dangerous, dangerous venture, as we can see. Here is a more humble approach. In the book of James, originally known as Jacob, chapter 4, verses 13 through 17, it states, "Come now, you who say, 'Today or tomorrow let us go to such and such a city, spend a year there and trade, and make a profit,' when you do not know of tomorrow. For what is your life? For it is a vapor that appears for a little, and then disappears. Instead of your saying, 'If the Master desires, we shall live and do this or that.' But now you boast in your proud speeches. All such boasting is wicked. To him then who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is a sin."
And Mr. Sullivan, what does your model say that means for us here?
Well, that's where it becomes a projection. But,
You're speaking with me, Mr. Sullivan.
well, sir, if those assets decrease by just 25% and remain on our books, that loss would be greater than the current market capitalization of this entire company.
So, what you're telling me is that the music is about to stop, and we're going to be left holding the biggest bag of odorous excrement ever assembled in the history of capitalism.
Sir, I'm not sure that I would put it that way, but let me clarify, using your analogy, what this model shows is the music, so to speak, just slowing. the music were to stop, as you put it, then this model wouldn't be even close to that scenario. It would be considerably worse.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Sullivan. Do you care to know why I'm in this chair with you all? I mean, why I earn the big bucks?
Yes.
I'm here for one reason and one reason alone. I'm here to guess what the music might do a week, a month, a year from now. That's it. Nothing more. And standing here tonight, I'm afraid that I don't hear a thing. Just silence.
So as you can see from these movie clips, there is much practice in sin, and sin is nothing more than transgression of the law or Torah, known as the instruction or instructions. So there are financial instructions. There is financial law, laws of economics, and we don't seem to like them. And as such, we don't follow the instructions to a better quality life, thus putting ourselves in much danger, let alone our loved ones. So when someone asks you in the future, are the scripturals relevant? You can say yes. If someone says to you, oh, that book, the scriptures, is outdated, can you state otherwise and have proof? Yes, you can. The global financial crisis, as explained in advance by the scriptures, is alive and well. Hopefully this study has been of value to you. Again, we are not teachers. We share these videos with the intent to motivate and influence others to test and prove all things, and to receive feedback to ensure that we, as Bereans that study the scriptures daily, are indeed in alignment with the very word. So thank you for the blessing and privilege in sharing in the name which is above all names, and as always, all the best.